Hey guys, it's Hayes with CheatSheetPros.com. Today is Tuesday, June 7th. We're going to take a look at some MLB plays for today. We have a pretty good slate on tap tonight. So the first game that jumps out on our cheat sheet is this Washington-Miami over. So you can see here, Vegas has it at 8.5 when I ran the sheet this morning. Our model has it at 9.1. Now I just have this here for kind of tracking purposes to play with a little bit, but when we go from 8.5 to 9.1, that kind of makes me want to look at an over. When I come over here and I look at these lines, let's see, where's it at? So right up here, let me make sure you can see that on your screen. Okay, we're good. We have Adon and Cabrera. It opened at 8. It's already at 8.5, and then 77% of the cash is on the over and 89% of the tickets. So early money is definitely going after the over, so we do like that. This is going to show our number 19 versus number 26 teams in our last 10 power rankings. And as always with our cheat sheets, I like to do a custom last 10 power rankings so I can get a good grasp on how the team's doing right now. And you can see these two teams I couldn't pick a side. They're up and down. Washington over here, they lost 4 games in a row, but then they've won 3 in a row, but it was against Cincinnati. And then Miami's pretty much win, lose, win, lose, win, lose, back and forth. But the over did jump at me since our model here has it at 9.1. Also, if you're into stats and trends, one thing that jumps out, Washington, look at their total difference over here. So at home, they are 10-17 for the over, which means there is 17-10 underplay. But on the road, they are 17-9 for the over. So they are much better at scoring runs on the road. So we like that. And then you flip over here to Miami, and this may be hard for you to see, so I am reading it off for you. Miami at home is 15-10 for the over, but only 11-15 on the road. So at home, they are much better, 15-10 for the over. So both teams trending to the over. So let's go ahead and take a look at the hitting. Hitting, we have good and good. You really don't need to look anything further. Neither one of these teams is red hot. I'm not going to get too crazy and dig into all these players. I do like the 3 red graded hitters over here, and then we're pretty decent over here. We have a couple hot hitters, but everybody's kind of in this orange in the 1 to 5, and then the bottom of the lineup's picking it up a little bit, so not too bad. Edward Cabrera, the next thing we want to do is look at the pitching. He's only got 6 innings pitched this year, so these stats, just throw them out the window. They're meaningless. But we can go back here and look at the 2021 season where he had 26 innings with a 5.81 ERA, a 1.63 whip, which is really bad, and then allowing a 2.47 batting average. So not a great pitcher. If we want to go take a look and see kind of what he has done so far this year, and I don't think they're going to have him on there. So who do they have as the pitcher? Okay. Well, we're not going to mess with it. So Adon is someone that we can also go after. This pretty much seems to be something consistent. Also, bullpen's 19th and 26th, so they're prone to give up a lot of runs. Adon this year has 50 innings pitched, so that's a good chunk to get some stats and data from him. 5.98 ERA, 6.46 ERA on the road, allowing a 2.87 road ERA average, and his already ridiculous 1.69 whip jumps to 1.77 on the road. So we have 2 mediocre, decent hitting teams against 2 really bad pitchers and 2 poor bullpens. So we like to go over. This opened at 8. It's currently 8.5. So we like it over 8.5. I wouldn't mind just taking over 9 because 9 will give you a push. The last 3 games for, excuse me, Washington combined for 9, 18, and 13 runs. And then over here for Miami, they combined for 6, 9, and 21 runs. So I like this. I mean, it's a normal single unit bet, so I like this to go over. So moving on, we're going to slide down here. The next game that I like is going to be the Chicago Cubs over the Baltimore Orioles. Now, let's not get cute. Both of these teams are horrible. They're sub 500. You can see we got 23 and 32 versus 23 and 33. They both got coming off of a loss. Last 20, they've got 8 wins, 9 wins, not good. Last 10 power rankings, they're about even. 18th versus 20th. So we kind of are going to say, hey, these two teams, looking at it from the outside in, they're both about even. However, the Cubs, to me, are the hotter team right now, and I want to show you how I come up with that. So they did lose these 2 games, but it was to a really good St. Louis team. They did get a 6-1 win against St. Louis. I don't know what happened in this game, but they got crushed by St. Louis. They got another win against St. Louis, and they took the last two against Milwaukee. So decent, not great. And then over here for Baltimore, they lost 2 of 3 to Cleveland, and then they lost 2 of 3 to Seattle, and then they split. Oh, they had a 5-game series with Boston and actually won that 3-2. So little mixed bag there. You can see over here for the Baltimore hitters, they grade out as good, but our Cubby hitters grade out as hot. And what I like about this is we've got these high-graded hitters in the red up and down the lineup. And also, we don't have any dark blues except for the 9-hole hitter, but the top 8 projected hitters in this lineup are all this kind of gold and green, which is good. We don't have to get into the details of it. So these two teams right now, we're saying, I would agree, 18th, 20th, they're both, about equal on the surface. So hitters, we give a slight edge over here to the Cubbies. Now let's look at the pitching matchup. So we have bullpens, 18 versus 7. So that's pretty much about the same. There's not a big difference there, but slight edge over to the Cubs. But this Bradish, who I thought was Bradfish for the longest time, he has 33 innings this year. He has a 6.82 ERA. Now his xFIP says he should be much better, so take that with a grain of salt. But at home, he's got a 6.29 ERA with a xFIP over 4. So I'm putting him about a mediocre pitcher. His whip and batting average allowed is really high. So in 33 innings, he's allowing a .313 batting average to opponent hitters. That's really high. So the Cubbies could get to him. I think they were minus 110. And if you want to get crazy and go on the run line, you can get plus 155. Now over here, I love Keegan Thompson. He's solid. He's 45.1 innings pitched this year. He has a 1.99 ERA. Anyone with an ERA that low, their xFIP always going to be higher. But his xFIP is still sub 4, so that is fantastic. He has a 1.08 whip, and he's allowing a .222 batting average through 45 innings and has the 7th bullpen behind him. So this is a clear push to the Cubs. They should be able to get a W here. If you want to just do a normal bet, it's minus 110. I might get a little crazy and go for the run line at plus 155. On the run line, let's see here. On the road run line, they're 16-8, so I just noticed that. That's really good. But Baltimore, the home run line, 20-9. So be careful with it because both teams aren't great, but your risk reward is completely up to you. Sliding down to some of these other games, Atlanta run line is going to be the next play that I like. So Atlanta minus 1.5, I think it's like minus 115, minus 120, somewhere in there. What jumps out at me is last 10 power rankings, we got number 10 versus dead last number 30. Last 2 weeks runs per game, we have 5.1 versus only 3. So that jumps out at me. And this is a glaring hole right here. You can see Oakland's lost 6 games in a row, only scoring 2, 0, 2, 4, 1, and 1 runs. Now, take it with a grain of salt. Look who they played. They played a 3-game series with Boston, a 3-game series with Houston. So, yeah, they're supposed to lose those games. I mean, they're a sub-500 team. But then we come over here to Atlanta, and they had a much easier schedule against Colorado and Arizona, but they've won 5 games in a row, scoring 8, 6, 3, 13, and 6 runs. So edge on the surface over here is going to go to Atlanta. They are playing at home. You can see there's a slight uptick in their numbers. Team batting average jumps 9 points. Team WOBA jumps 17 points, and WRC Plus takes them from just under 100 to just over 100. Oakland just has not been very good this year altogether, and they're going in different directions. We have a 5-game win streak versus a 6-game losing streak. Sliding down here at the hitters, Oakland, ice cold. They fall in this low mid, which is our lowest category of blue. And then over here for Atlanta, they come off as good when we have hot hitters up and down the lineup that grade out over 90, which you can see here in the red. Austin Riley's been on fire. Now, keep in mind, they just played a long series in Colorado, so that helped them a little bit. But a couple of those games were really low scoring. Now we go down to the pitching matchup. Oakland's bullpen ranks 25th. Atlanta, number 3. Clear edge over to Atlanta on the bullpen. Cole Irvin, in 45 innings pitched, is solid. He's got a 2.96 ERA, but his xFIP is over 4. So that tells me he's been a little lucky with the BABIP. And then on the road, you can see there's a clear distinction here. So he's been really good at home, but on the road, He has an ERA over 5, and then his xFIP is 4.3 to 4.5, so I'm going to say he's a little over 4 ERA pitcher, and he's allowing a 292 batting average on the road, and then has a bad bullpen behind him. Now on the other side, Kyle Wright gets to face a team that's struggling to hit the ball. We can see there's some guys up here with some monster strikeout rates. We have Seth Brown at 26%, Pender at 35%, Sean Murphy at 28%, and Chris Pachi at 30, batting 167. So he gets a much better matchup. He does have a 2.41 ERA and a 3.31 xFIP, which that is outstanding because last year only had 6 innings. We'll throw that out the window. But through 59 innings, he's still holding a 2.41 ERA and a 3.3 xFIP, and his K9 rate's 10, which is, he must have figured something out. That's just insane. 1.07 whip, which is a little better at home, and allowing a 193 batting average and 172 batting average at home, and that's through 36 innings. So I love Atlanta here. Let me see if they've got some stats on him. So we're going to slide over here to Cruncher, look at some game logs real quick. So Kyle Wright in his last 4 starts has allowed 0, 3, 0, and 1 earned runs. So that's pretty good. San Diego, Miami, Philly, Arizona. So not great teams. Boston did get to him, tagged him for 6. But then prior to that, he went back to only allowed 3 against the Mets, 1 against the Cubs, none against Miami, none against Cincy. So he's been pretty solid. He's having a good year. So I like Atlanta run line in this spot. If they lose the game, so be it. But Atlanta run line I can get for pretty much a straight bet and don't have to get crazy. So let's go on down to the next game. So this is a bonus game I didn't have on the screenshot. So if you're watching the video, Milwaukee and Philadelphia, the over jumped out at me. So this one was 8.5, which I was kind of shocked. I really wanted to lean Philly team total over because they've scored 9, 7, 10, and 6 over the last 4 games. They're starting to pick it up, doing really well. But I went with the game over because hopefully we can get a few from Milwaukee. Milwaukee has allowed a lot, but they've scored 4, 0, 0, 5, 3, and 7, so they're struggling a little bit. So looking at the 2 teams, Philly is clearly the better team right now. They have a 4-game win streak versus a 3-game losing streak for Milwaukee. Come down, these hitters grade out as hot. Everybody but Alex Bohm is doing pretty well, so Hoskins is picking it up, Schwarber, Castellanos, Real Muto, Odubel, they're all doing solid. Alec Bohm, I was watching ESPN, I think it was yesterday morning while I was drinking my coffee, and they had Bohm on there. It was like 1 for 24 or 1 for 20, and he went in there and started hitting his bat with everything in the dugout and broke it. And even their bottom 2 hitters right here are doing pretty well. They're pushing double-digit fantasy points per game over the last week. So if you're doing DFS, look at these prices. This is a good stack. Throw Bohm out, and then you can add any one of these guys and get a good stack here. They're going up against Jason Alexander. He only has 7 innings, so I'm not going to look at any stats for him. Suarez on the other side, he has not been great. He's got 48 innings, an ERA pushing 4.7, whip over 1.5, and allowing a 277 average with a rough bullpen. So hopefully even these Milwaukee Brewers, who are only scoring 3.6 runs per game, can get some runs on Suarez and this 22nd bullpen. So I like this to go over 8.5. Let's go over here, look at the game center, and see kind of what the money has done in this Milwaukee game. So let me flip down here and find it. Milwaukee, oh, who was this? All right, Milwaukee and Philly. All right, so Milwaukee and Philly. Oh, right here, number 3. So, okay, so this one also opened at 8. It's currently 8.5. And then you've got 94% of the cash on the over and 89% of the tickets. So that looks like a pretty good over. And if you don't want to risk a lot, you could take both of these overs that we like, just put them both over 8.5 and get plus 250 on just normal straight bets. So that's not too bad. So that's a bonus play that we had on the video. There is a parlay that I do like, and I'll go ahead and give it to you real quick. So it's going to pay plus 344, and it's the Toronto Blue Jays minus 1.5, which we'll get to, Atlanta minus 1.5, which we discussed, and then throwing the Houston Astros in there, minus 255, because Verlander's going. Houston's been struggling a little bit, but this is going to pay plus 344 if you're on MyBookie. That's going to give you a little better odds. So let's take a quick look at some of those games real quick. This one, I don't know if this game's going to play. I live in Kansas City. We're supposed to get some really bad weather about 4:30. I don't know how long it's going to last. The game's not till 7, but keep an eye on the weather. But Toronto run line, I think it's pretty much an auto play at this point. Kansas City, they're not good. 17-36 on the year, 5-15 over the last 20. Over here, they're 9-18 at home. They have a terrible WRC plus, and on the run line at home, they're 18-9 to go against them. You can see the game last night, even though it got delayed a little bit. Toronto beat them 8-0. It was really nothing. Looking at the last 10 power rankings, we have the number 3 Toronto Blue Jays versus the number 27 Kansas City Royals. And then runs per game last week, we got 6.2 versus 3.6. Kansas City, I mean, look at them here. They're struggling. I feel bad for them because I live in Kansas City, but hey, at least we got Patrick Mahomes and football season's coming up. Over the last 2 weeks, Toronto has the number 1 team batting average at 298. They're number 1 in WRC plus, and they're number 1 in home runs, and they have the 4th lowest strikeout rate. So Toronto is on fire right now. You can see the graded hitters. We have 5 graded hitters in the red, which is 90 and above. That's very rare. And even the other 3 hitters are still graded in the gold, which is really good. There's only one guy, Tapia, and he's not doing too bad. He's producing. So Toronto falls in the hot category. Now, Brad Keller is a good pitcher, but the Royals have the dead last bullpen right behind him. Keller is a little over 4 ERA pitcher, but you can see at home he holds a 2.43 ERA, allowing a 191 average. So much better, but this Toronto Blue Jay team is not going to struggle against him. On the other side, Alek Manoah, he was my preseason pitcher to grab in all my fantasy leagues. I absolutely love this kid. He is fire. He's got a 1.98 ERA through 63 innings. That is outstanding. Now his xFIP has him at 3.6, 3.7, still really good. 0.91 whip, allowing a 207 batting average. So wrap your head around that. 63 innings pitched this year, allowing a 207 batting average. That's phenomenal. Going up against a mediocre Kansas City team. They've only got 16 at-bats against him, but he's only given up 1 hit. So Toronto run line, I think, is the no-brainer play that we're going to ride in this Kansas City series. And I think it is plus 115. So plus money on that just seems like a no-brainer. Let's flip down here. Boston is going to be a bonus play. Vegas did not have it out yet. So it looks like it's Detmers versus Whitlock. So I'm waiting to see if this gets updated because it says undecided in a few places and then it comes back. But I mean, either way, I mean, you've got hot versus cold. I mean, 2 opposite teams right here. We're going to come over here. We got number 5 versus number 29. LA, they're down to a 12-game losing streak. I mean, look at this. They're just getting absolutely annihilated. Although they did have a close 1-0 game last night. And then Boston, they've won 5 straight games. They haven't really beat anyone good. Oakland, Cincinnati, Angels, not real good, but they're scoring runs and putting runs on the board. So once the line comes out in Vegas, let me see if it's over here. If it is, I'll flip it over on the screen so you can see it. I did not see it. I think they had it listed as one of the teams was undecided. Okay, so they don't have a line on it yet still, but I think Boston run line's an easy one to go at. On the road, they're 19-9 on the run line, and then LA is 26-30, so they're upside down. And then when you go down here and look at I guess we don't really know the pitching. Bullpens are about the same. Detmers, if it is Detmers and Whitlock, I'd say, they're pretty equal. There's nothing that's outstanding to either side. Detmers was terrible last year. He's improved a little bit this year, so a little better, but I think we got to play Boston and just pick on LA at this point. And then what was the other game we had in here? Was it the Mets? Oh, yes. I completely forgot we had that game as well. So the New York Mets, they're plus 125, plus 115. I'm seeing it a little bit all over. So I was shocked when I look right here. They have the Mets projected for less runs, so that means they're going to be a dog. So I looked the lineup. Now, just looking here, I mean, look at the Mets. They're 9-2 over the last 11 games. They knocked off the Dodgers 5-4, 9-4, and then they crushed San Diego last night 11-5. And then they had some games against Washington and a decent Philadelphia team, and they beat up on them 5-0, 10-0, 13-5, 5-4, 8-2, 8-6. So they're doing pretty good. The 2 games they did lose was to the Dodgers, and one of them was just 2-0. So Mets are playing really good ball right now. They're number 1 in our last 10 power rankings. They're number 1 in runs per game over the last 2 weeks at 6.3. Number 3 in WRC plus, and they're right behind Toronto for team batting average over the last 2 weeks at 296, which is fantastic. Now San Diego, they're good, don't get me wrong, but they are not great. They're middle of the pack. They fall 15th in our last 10 power rankings. They just lost 11-5 last night. They managed to beat Milwaukee 3 games in a row, and then they lost 4 games in a row. So they're a little bit up and down. One of the things that does jump out at me when we look at our cheat line, so Vegas has this at 7.5. We have it at 8.8, but I'm not going to go after the over here. Our rough true Vegas line with a little juice built in has San Diego minus 120, but you can see we have a drastic difference over here. We've got the Mets minus 155, so that's a big enough difference that I would want to go look at that game and just kind of, take a look and see, is this something that, we could go after. Now, at home on the run line, you can see San Diego is 7-17, so they're getting beat by well more than 1 run the majority of the time. And the Mets over here, they are 20-10 on the run line when they are on the road, so that's something to take in consideration. As far as the hitters, we got hot versus good, so 2 decent teams, but the Mets are just absolutely hot right now. They're 2, 3, 4, 5 hitters, all grade above 90. That's really good. And then 2 of those hitters have BVP, 5 of 13 for batting 385, and then 5 of 10 batting 500. And out of that 23 at-bats, only 3 strikeouts against Darvish. So Darvish has a tough BVP matchup. Darvish has been solid this year. He's got a 4 ERA, but at home, you can see he's been outstanding. 1.71 ERA, 3.3 xFIP, 0.68 WHIP, and 144 average. So he's been good, but New York Mets are hot and you're getting plus money. I don't know how you can walk away from that. I think that's definitely worth a bet. Taijuan Walker's no slouch, so it's not like we're rolling out, someone crappy on the other side. He's got a 2.88 ERA through 40 innings, allowing a 250 average with the number 4 bullpen behind him. So I think taking plus money in this game is a no-brainer for me. The other game we were going to look at was San Francisco, but there were 2 games that were kind of torn on the pitchers. One says Rodon's throwing, and then one has someone else. Let's see what this one has. This one I think is wrong. So I've got 2 different pitchers listed on 2 different sites. So if Rodon's throwing, take a look at that one. I mean, Colorado's hasn't been great. They've been really bad on the road. You can see Colorado on the road. You can pretty much go against them. Let me see. At home, they're 16-16. On the road, they're 7-15. And then you can see everything drop when they, leave Coors. Their OBISO, their average goes from 275 to 240. WOBA 345 to 289, and WRC plus 94 to 83. So they take a huge hit. So if Rodon's throwing, I don't mind putting San Francisco in a parlay. The ones I was looking at was doing a possible San Francisco, Toronto run line, and Houston for a possible parlay, or the one we had looked at earlier. And then there was one other game we were going to look at, and I think it was Houston. And I wanted to show you something on this game. Let me find it on here and see. Houston. All right, this has to load. So Verlander's throwing today, Houston, Seattle. So this is always the away team, so I got to go find out who I'm going to look at. So Houston, Seattle. The run line is a little scary here because Houston has been playing a lot of close games. They haven't been crazy, and we actually have Seattle ranked higher in our last 10 power rankings. I mean, they won last night 7-4. They've won 4 of the last 5, so it is a little scary. But you can see overall Seattle takes a huge hit when they go on the road. Houston at home is 14-7. They just lost last night, so it would be hard for me to see them losing again. They haven't been putting up a bunch of runs and crushing people. At home on the run line, they're only 9-12 and 18-16 and 27-28 overall. So the run line is a little scary. They're laying minus 220, I think, is what I saw. So I don't mind doing a money line parlay with Houston, Toronto run line, and then add your third game in there and get something around plus 350. Verlander's just been outstanding. 64 innings pitched, 2.23 ERA, .8 whip, 179 average, number 8 bullpen behind him. I mean, he's absolutely outstanding. There's 76 at-bats for the projected lineup for Seattle, and they're only hitting 237 off of him with a 28% strikeout rate. So that's something to take a look at. And then over here, Chris Flexen, you know, he's a mid-4 pitcher. He's got a 4.55 ERA, xFIP slightly higher, 1.4 whip, 275 average. Houston should be able to get in and get this game, but I don't like laying the big money, so I don't mind putting Houston in with something else. Even if you did like Toronto run line in Houston for a bet, that'd be fine. But anyways, that's the games that I have for today, guys. Good luck.